portion. So when I saw this video, instantly I said, this has to be clickbait, right? This has to be clickbait. Hello, my beautiful YouTube family. Welcome to the L portion of T.E.L.L Joanne. I am your girl, Joanne. Guys, today's request is a bit interesting, okay? So I received a donation, and the person does not want me to say their name, and they sent me a request, and the title is, at 76, Linda Thompson finally reveals the darkest secret Elvis made her keep. Now, you guys know I have been introduced to Linda Thompson by our member Matt, and Matt requested a video, and I was able to hear her talk about Elvis, talk about Lisa Marie Presley, and I just genuinely liked her as a person from what I saw in the interview. So I said, okay, this is interesting. So let me post it up for me to line it up. And when I clicked on the image, I saw this image that it says Elvis is gay. So I reserve the right to deny any request that is made to say that, you know what, it doesn't align with my channel. I don't want to do this, and just, pick another video. However, I really thought about this because I'm saying this is for the L portion. So when I saw this video, instantly I said, this has to be clickbait, right? This has to be clickbait. And I know that I always tell you guys, as I continue doing, learning about all of the artists whose music that I listen to, I welcome for you guys to give me all versions of them just so I can learn more about them. So being that personally, before even seeing this video, I see this and I'm like, okay, this is clickbait. I feel like this is a great learning opportunity for me and maybe for you guys. And if you are introduced to a new person and you don't know about them, and that's the whole thing. The internet has so many information. You don't know what's real, what's not. You just got to take it and you got to do your own research. So clearly, this cover tells me that from the lady that I saw interview and from what I'm saying on this cover is definitely clickbait. So like I said, I am going into it open, right? Because I'm going into all videos open, and I want to know what the secret is and if the secret has anything to do with this clearly false title that I see right now. Okay, if that makes any sense. So before we start, this is going to be my last video for today. Before you start, you guys already know what we're about to do if you are part of the family, aka you're a subscriber. But if you're new to the channel, this is when I say hello. Now put me on pause, go get yourself a beverage of choice, hit that subscribe button so that you can become part of this amazing community. And on the count of 3, we'll do our cheer. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, guys. So, like I said, this is the learning portion. This is very different from, I'm seeing the title. I just, within the last 2 weeks, heard an interview from Linda Thompson, and I'm seeing this. So I know that this title is definitely clickbait, but let's see what the video is going to give us. Without further talking, let's go.
I never wanted to be accused of capitalizing or exploiting my relationship with him, so that's why I never wrote a book for almost 40 years about my relationship with Elvis.
For decades, Linda Thompson carried a burden that Elvis Presley made her hide from the world. Their love story was filled with passion, but also with shadows she dared not mention. She was sworn to protect it, forced to bury it deep, even as it haunted her every day. But now at 76, she can no longer carry the weight of that silence. Join us as we delve into the darkest secrets of the king of rock and roll that the world wasn't meant to find out. Bound by secrets.
So I
was 22, but
22 going on, 13. And so
what was the occasion?
I was Miss Tennessee. I was Miss Tennessee University in 1972.
Linda Thompson met Elvis Presley in the summer of 1972. She was 22 years old at the time, living in Memphis, and had just come out of the Miss Tennessee USA pageant world. She knew who Elvis was, of course. Everyone in Memphis knew. He wasn't just a singer, he was the city's most famous son, a man who had already shaped music history. But to Linda, he was not just the king of rock and roll. When she stepped into his circle, she began to see the man behind the image. Their meeting happened at a movie screening. Elvis often rented out entire theaters late at night, inviting friends and people he trusted. Linda was introduced through mutual acquaintances. She remembered walking into that darkened theater and feeling nervous. Then, Elvis turned and noticed her.
you should have married a Southern girl. And I've said that, and he always remembered my saying that, because he said, you have no idea how honest that was and how truthful. And
he smiled, and suddenly all the tension seemed to fade. He asked her to sit with him. That was the start of a relationship that would last 4.5 years. At first, everything felt light. Linda was young, bright, and hopeful. Elvis, though more than 10 years older, charmed her easily. He had a way of making her feel important, as though she mattered more than the crowds that screamed his name. He talked.
All right, guys, so I gotta say, I came in with all the hype because of the cover, but I'm listening to this right now. Like I said, I knew the cover was clickbait, so I'm letting my guard down and hearing what this commentator is saying with everything. All right,
with her for hours. He invited her to Graceland and made her part of his inner world. For Linda, this was overwhelming but also exciting. She had grown up in Memphis, and now she was walking into Graceland as someone trusted by Elvis himself. However, being close to Elvis meant stepping into a life that was anything but ordinary. His home was always filled with people. Friends, relatives, bodyguards, and staff came and went at all times.
And she and I went to the theater and were introduced to him properly.
Just, hello, this is
Miss Tennessee. Hello, honey, where have you been all my life?
Elvis did not live a normal schedule. He often stayed awake through the night, sometimes until
show your daughter how much you love her with this beautiful gift.
Schedule. We know that she said that in her interview.
It says,
that,
to my daughter,
8 o'clock.
Never forget that I love you forever. I hope that you believe it.
Until dawn, and then slept through much of the day.
Right, we know that.
Linda adjusted to this rhythm, even though it was hard for someone used to routine.
Look at those pictures.
It was during these long nights that she began to see more of him than the public ever did. Elvis was warm and loving at times, but he also carried moods that shifted without warning. He could be playful, telling jokes or singing softly on the piano, then moments later become withdrawn, lost in thought. Linda noticed that his life at the top had left him restless. Fame had taken away his freedom. Even inside Graceland, he often seemed trapped, pacing the halls or looking out windows as though searching for something beyond the gates. Linda became more than just a girlfriend. She became his confidant, someone he leaned on when the crowds disappeared and the stage lights went dark. Elvis began to share things with her that he did not tell many people. He trusted her, but with that trust came responsibility. Linda soon realized that being with Elvis was not just about living a glamorous life at Graceland. It was about carrying burdens he did not want the world to see. There were moments when Elvis would sit with her in the middle of the night and open up. His voice would be low.
So I'm going to pause that. You know what? That line, I feel like, is something that's true to all relationships, right? When you are in a real relationship, when it's not just for the cameras and not for the show, it really is about carrying the burden of your partner. It's about being with your partner through thick and through thin, right? So not everybody's going to be happy all the time. And when the person is sad, it is about, when you love someone, to carry the sadness with them so that they're not alone, to work with them, to let them know that they're not by themselves. So again, as I said, with the cover, I think the cover was clickbait. And with the cover, it really did put me on guard, and I was really debating if I should watch it or not. But again, I decided that if anything, it could be a learning experience. So far from what I'm hearing, I'm just getting a little bit more about their inside, the inside life. And
his eyes heavy with unspoken weight. He told her things about himself, his struggles, his fears. He asked her not to repeat them.
But I didn't know. It hadn't been released to the press. So I was pretty standoffish because, you know, I was a good Southern Baptist girl.
He told her that some parts of his life had to stay hidden, because if people knew, they would never see him the same way again. Linda listened, nodded, and agreed to keep those words to herself. At first, she thought little of it.
Excuse me.
Lovers share secrets, after all. But over time, she realized that what Elvis confided in her was more serious than she had expected. These were not small confessions about daily life. These were heavy admissions. Parts of him he did not want anyone else to know. By giving her those secrets, Elvis placed her in a position of both intimacy and strain. She was close to him in a way few people were, but the closeness came with pressure. Linda cared for him deeply, and she wanted to protect him. She promised herself that she would not betray his trust. She stayed by his side through long nights and unpredictable days. But in the back of her mind, she began to understand the weight of what she had taken on. The life she imagined, simple love, happiness, companionship, was becoming engulfed by secrecy. At first, she felt chosen and special, but those feelings slowly gave way to reality. The introduction of that secrecy into their relationship marked the start of something different. What looked glamorous from the outside was far more complicated within. Linda often appeared at Elvis's side at events, smiling for cameras, but inside she was carrying truths that no one else knew. She would learn quickly that being close to Elvis Presley was both a gift and a burden, and that the secret he asked her to keep would shape not only their relationship but also her own life for years to come. The cost of silence. The nights at Graceland were long. Most of the world imagined Elvis Presley surrounded by...
So this is these clickbait video. They talking about the secrets that she's supposed to keep. And I'm waiting to hear the secret. And they're going to wait for the very end to tell me that secret, waste my time. And the secret better not be what I saw in the front saying that Elvis is gay, because we know that's BS. Because I'm sure she would have said it before, unless she said it in her book. Guys, comment below and let me know. But this is the thing, right, about television, about YouTube, about these media, is that you don't know. You're coming in with information, you're seeing these things for the first time, and then you hear these things and then you're like, oh my God, this is true, Elvis was gay. And then you spread that lie to somebody else, and then somebody else trusts you and they take it as truth, and it just continues and it continues. Like I said, I decided to listen to this based on the cover. I would not have clicked on it. I decided to listen to it just to entertain myself. And again, everything that they're saying so far, I think it's fine. But I mean, what really is the secret? And if it was just how do you call it, clickbait, that they did that for people in the cover. All right, let's go. Let's continue.
Music, bright lights, and cheering fans. Linda Thompson saw something different. She saw the man when the stage was empty, when the house was dark, and when his guard was lowered.
That's called being in a
relationship. It was in those hours, often late into the night, that Elvis shared the truth he didn't want anyone else to know. Elvis rarely went to bed early. He would stay awake with friends, known as the Memphis Mafia, watching movies or talking until dawn. But when the noise faded and the others went away, he often called Linda to sit with him. Sometimes he paced the floor. Sometimes he lay back in his bed, staring at the ceiling. It was in those moments that Linda first understood the depth of his struggle. He told her in a low voice that there was something inside him that felt destructive. He admitted that he carried an urge he could not control, an impulse that seemed to push him toward the edge. He did not always call it by name, but Linda could see what he meant. She saw the bottles on the nightstand, the pills sorted into small containers, the way he reached for them when his body or mind felt too restless. He confessed that he turned to prescription medication not just for pain, but for escape. At first, Linda wanted to believe it was only temporary. She thought perhaps he was simply worn out from years of touring and performing. She told herself that the pills were just medicine, nothing more. But night after night, she saw the pattern grow. He leaned on them heavily. He fought against exhaustion, insomnia, and pressure with handfuls of capsules. Sometimes he drifted into heavy sleep and Linda would watch his breathing carefully, afraid it might stop. However, she knew she needed to keep that between them.
Guys, comment below if you actually have read Linda's book, because I'm wondering, again, this is what people do on YouTube sometimes in terms of clickbait to get you to see their channel. The cover is completely different from what I'm actually hearing. What I'm actually hearing is, again, is about people who are in a relationship. And I'm wondering where the information that he's reciting, where it's coming from, if part of this is coming from Linda's book. And if you have read it, comment below and just let me know as I continue to watch this. It's so funny because I feel like I haven't watched an interview with like a side eye before, right? Because I would see the cover and the cover is what it is. So because of what the title is and what the cover is and what's happening, these are three completely different things that I'm experiencing right now. Let's continue.
She realized she was being pulled into a secret that was far bigger than she expected. This wasn't just about listening to a man's inner thoughts. It was about witnessing him fight a battle he did not want the world to see. Elvis begged her to stay quiet, to protect him from judgment, from headlines, from betrayal. She agreed, even though her heart ached with worry. Linda often sat up with him hours on end, watching as he tried to calm himself. She would hand him water, adjust the pillows, or simply sit nearby so he would not feel alone. He sometimes told her that she was the only one who truly understood. He called her his safe place, his anchor. Linda wanted to believe she could hold that role forever. But every time she agreed to keep silent, she felt the weight of that choice grow heavier. The burden of the secret spread into daily life. When friends asked how Elvis was doing, Linda kept her answers light. When family members wondered about his health, she brushed it off with a smile. She learned to cover for him, to explain away his fatigue or sudden mood swings. She knew the truth, but locked it inside because she had promised him she would. There were times when she wanted to break down and cry, but she couldn't. Elvis needed her to be strong. He needed her to hold him. And so she stayed by his side, even when it tore at her. In private, she tried to reason with him. She suggested that he cut back on the medication, that he find healthier ways to rest. He listened sometimes, nodded, even promised to try. But the habit was stronger than her words. The bottles kept appearing, filled and refilled, like a cycle that could not be broken. Linda knew that others in his circles...
All right, I'm going to take a pause and say right there. So I know that a lot of people said that Elvis did drugs, and so a lot of people says that it's medication. But the truth is, whatever it is that he was taking, whether, however someone decides to put it, it was prescribed by a doctor. But the thing is that medication, as we know, depending on what's going on in our life, right? How often the doctor is giving it to us, it does become addictive. So let's be honest and just say what it is. Like, people do become addicted to their prescribed medication. So as I'm listening to this, I don't know if this is coming from her memoir. And again, going back to the cover, and they just did that as clickbait, but it sounds like if it is coming from her memoir, the information that person is narrating could be factual information. And I don't know, again, this is my first time reaction, first time watching it. If you guys do know about her memoir, you guys can comment below and let me know that, okay, Joanne, she actually did write those things that I'm hearing so far, because I don't hear anything that's off-land, like out of, off-landish, off the rails, whatever, how I thought it was. Like, everything that I'm hearing is something that, when you are in a relationship, especially when you're in a relationship with a star, and, especially with Elvis and the condition that he had, and then the medication, all of those things that he had, and as a spouse, a female, a partner, or whatever it is, you see that the person is going through, you're feeling all of those things, and you also know that you want to keep it private because people may take the story and they may run. So everything that I'm hearing that he's narrating is completely different from the image that they put in the front cover from what I was expecting. So like I said, this is a different experience for me, because I feel like I came in watching this with a side eye, and now I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, I don't hear anything that's like, I'm like, oh, as crazy as I was in the beginning, thinking that, I need to, when I said about the L portion, to learn about truth and facts, I haven't heard anything that I think is out of bounds right now. All right, let's
saw pieces of the truth, but none of them spoke openly about it. His fame protected him, and his money made access to doctors and prescriptions easy. She felt alone, carrying more of his personal world than anyone else. This was the secret. Elvis Presley, the man adored by millions, was deeply dependent on prescription pills, caught in a cycle he could not admit to the world. Still, Elvis kept reminding her not to tell. He would look at her with sharp eyes and say that if people knew, they would tear him apart. He feared being judged. He feared being seen as weak.
Okay.
I have no idea who came up with the idea to give me this,
secret,
but it's
and
genius.
I can go
It's 2025.
and I will
He leaned on her
implore the person who's doing this to not put the cover that they put, that he's saying that the secret is that he's gay. I would implore them not to, but again, I know clickbait, and then people who, especially a lot of people who want to look for negative things about Elvis, may click on it, and I'm wondering how they feel, because like when they see this, granted, this is only 10 minutes and 40 seconds in the video. It is not the entire video, and then we will continue. Let me continue a few more minutes.
And she gave it, even when it tore at her. And Linda, young and devoted, carried that truth for him, locking it inside while she tried to love him through the shadows. Carrying Elvis's secret bound Linda to him in ways few could imagine. She became the keeper of truths that he could not share with the world.
Which is what
While the outside
do, right?
saw glamour and fame, Linda held the hidden side that no one else could touch. This very duty created a silent bond, but also a deep burden. The secret became the invisible thread running through their years together, shaping her choices and reminding her of the cost of love, learning to let go. The longer Linda Thompson stayed with Elvis Presley, the more she saw how the secret she carried seeped into every part of their relationship. What had begun as excitement and closeness slowly shifted into something harder to sustain. At first, Linda believed her love could balance it all. She was young, hopeful, and willing to sacrifice. She told herself that if she stayed loyal, if she stood by his side, then things would steady. But as months turned into years, the cracks grew harder to ignore. Life with Elvis was unpredictable. He rarely lived by ordinary hours. Some nights were full of laughter, music, and joy. He would sit at the piano, singing softly while Linda listened. In those moments, he felt warm, open, even tender. But the mood could turn suddenly. The next day, he might withdraw, restless and lost in his own thoughts. Linda learned to read the signals in his tone, in the set of his face, in the way he walked through a room. She adjusted constantly, shaping herself around his shifts. The secrecy surrounding his private battles created distance between them. Linda often felt she was holding part of him that no one else could understand.
Yeah,
at first, this closeness made her feel special.
I mean, she was. As a spouse, when you are with someone, again, medication, people get addicted to medication. When you are with someone, you're close to them, you are carrying their burden. That's part of what it means to be in a relationship. You're carrying their joy as well. And then when you are with a rock star and what it comes up to, you know what you're going to get into. You know what you're getting into. No one says that you got to be in a relationship and you have to suffer in any of those things. But there are certain type of relationships that when you get into, you know what you're going to get into right away. The person will love you and they will show you respect, but know that it comes with fan base. It comes with, girls throwing panties at them, girls doing this, girls doing that. This is what you're going into. And in regards to Elvis, again, from the little that I do know, that he was again, medication back then and the things now is very different. The medication that they gave him back then, they would not give it to him this time, right? At our current time. So whatever the doctors was giving him in order to keep him making money, keep him performing, right? Keep him performing, keep him on stage, keep him hype. He got addicted to them. And that's just that. It doesn't matter whether, I feel like if you're a true Elvis fan, you should be able to admit that truth, right? He was addicted to them and it is what it is, right? But that doesn't change who he is or any of those things. And when you are in a relationship with a person and medication is involved and they depend on those medications, because sometimes you're so tired, right? And you can't even go, and you have shows, you can't even sleep regular hours. Your doctor gives you those medications to continue to go on, and you become addicted to it, period. You just become addicted to it. And so again, as a spouse, you're seeing all of those things and it is hurting you. And again, certain things, it's like, you cannot say it because it's like, what will it do to that person's career, right? You can try your best to tell them, to talk to their doctors, to talk to, their family, to talk to everyone, to talk to their support group. But what happens when the support group is the ones that's forcing the medication on them, right? What do? Who do you talk to when you are with a spouse and your support group is actually the pusher? And it sounds like if that information is taken from her memoir, that's what I'm getting. But again, I have not read it. I don't know what's fact, what's not fact. But what I'm hearing, I'm like, okay, it sounds pretty believable. And this is not through her mouth. I thought it was going to be her snips of interviews of her saying certain things, but it's not. It's whoever's narrating it, and it's their interpretation of whatever that they read. And here I am interpreting what I'm hearing, right? All right, let's continue.
But over time, it turned into isolation. She wanted him to open up to others, to seek help beyond her presence, but he resisted. She became the single guardian of truths he could not share, and that responsibility placed strain on their bond. Arguments began to creep into their relationship. They were not always explosive, but they carried too much frustration. Linda wanted stability, a partner she could build a future with. She longed for marriage, for children, for something beautiful. Elvis, however, seemed trapped in a place that left little room for that. His fame demanded constant attention, his habits shaped their nights, and the secret he placed in Linda's hands built a wall she could not break through. There were times when she tried to bring up her own needs. She would tell him gently she wanted a normal life someday, a family of her own. Elvis would listen, sometimes even nod, but his answers often drifted back to his own struggles. Linda realized that her dreams were slipping further away the longer she stayed. Friends around them noticed the tension. Some saw how tired Linda looked, how she seemed older than her age. The imbalance grew clearer as the years went by. Linda often felt more like a caretaker than a partner. She spent nights making sure he was safe, adjusting to his unpredictable moods, and covering for him in front of others. She loved him deeply, but the weight of responsibility overshadowed the romance they once shared. She was there, physically by his side, yet emotionally drifting apart. But Linda not only felt the growing distance, the secrecy also created mistrust. Elvis sometimes became suspicious, wondering if she had spoken to anyone about his struggles. He never wanted the outside world to know. Linda reassured him constantly, promising that she had stayed silent, but the doubt was still there. That doubt chipped away at their bond, making her feel as though her loyalty was never enough. By 1976, Linda's exhaustion had reached a breaking point. She still loved Elvis, but she could no longer ignore the effect their relationship was having on her spirit. She felt trapped between loyalty and survival. She didn't want to abandon him. She didn't want to be the one who walked away when he needed her most. Yet she also knew she could not continue like this forever. Finally, the breaking point came. There was no explosive fight, no dramatic scene. It was a slow realization building over months. Linda saw that Elvis's life was moving in one direction and hers in another. He was consumed.
I'm going to pause right here. And again, let me fix this camera. And this is, I don't know if this is taken from her memoir, but it probably is. And I'm listening to this, and to me that sounds like a regular relationship. And again, like, I'm going back to the cover that they put. They should not have put that clickbait cover. I feel like messed up the whole work for me that they put into this. So in regards to the relationship with Linda and Elvis, it's just to me it's a normal relationship in the sense that when you are with someone who is a celebrity, when you're with a celebrity, there's certain things that does come on with it. And no matter what, as much as you love the person, sometimes when things are not going right, you got to realize that I love me too. I love me too. I love this person, and this person is an amazing person, but our vision is not aligned, right? Our goals are not aligned. And so I have to love myself, and I have to live my dream as well. And so I love that, it wasn't a nasty breakup. It wasn't in public. It was just that it was like they realized that their goals and their dreams are not aligned, and they just need to go a separate way. And I think that's perfectly fine. And if this is what, and again, I did not read Linda's memoir. If you guys read it, please, I trust my community, comment below and let me know. But if that's how it is, I think it's wonderful that she left, the way that they left, they continue to be friends. And again, she waited 40 years before she wrote whatever that she wrote. Again, and I'm saying that I'm assuming that this narrator is getting that information from her memoir. I don't know. Again, comment below and let me know. All right, let's continue.
by the patterns he could not escape, and she was yearning for a future he could not give her. Leaving would not mean she stopped caring. It would mean saving what remained of herself. One evening, after another long night, Linda sat alone in her room. She thought about her age, about the years she had already given, and about the life she still hoped to build. She knew then that she had to step away. When she finally told Elvis she was leaving, the words came with sadness, not anger. She explained that she needed a life of her own, one where she wasn't just tied to secrets. Elvis listened, but he did not fight her decision. Deep down, he seemed to understand. And so their separation marked the end of a chapter filled with both love and burden. For Linda, it was a release from the weight of secrecy, but it also left her carrying memories that would never leave. The consequences of their relationship had changed her, reshaped her future, and left a mark that time could not erase. The bond between Linda and Elvis could not escape the strain of the secret and the struggles around it. Love turned into duty, and closeness turned into distance. Arguments, mistrust, and exhaustion grew, leaving Linda with hard choices about her future. She cared deeply for him, but she also knew she was losing herself. Walking away was not betrayal, it was survival. Their relationship ended not with contempt, but with the truth that love alone was no longer enough. Too hard to handle. Fame followed Elvis Presley everywhere he went, but no matter how much attention he got, he never grew used to it. From the very start, he tried to hold on to control of his private world. He chose carefully who could come close to him, and when someone did step in, they had to play by his rules. That was how it had been with Linda Thompson, and when Ginger Alden entered his life, she soon had to learn the same way of living. He made sure she pulled away from people he didn't want. In late November of 1976, only a few...
I don't like the way the narrator put that, right? It almost sounds like someone who's abusive and who's doing that. But the reality is, again, if you are going to date a celebrity, the celebrity do have their certain things. Like, a lot of their lives are not private. So what they can keep private, they try very, very hard to keep private. And that is part of the, you know, when you see a guy or a girl, you have your little criteria list that you have for them. And that is a list. And that's not only about Elvis. I feel like that's any celebrity that's out there, or anyone of whatever certain profession, or just people in general, right? You because if you're going to be with that person, your friends are going to be connected and your family's going to be connected. This is why your parents always tell you, birds of a feather flock together, right? It's like those things, as much as I be wanting to deny it, it really does play a big role. And Elvis, as big as he is, people were trying to come close to him. People were trying to be fake just to get close to him, just for his kindness, or to take advantage, or for pictures, or for whatever it is. People were doing that. So you have to be careful of who you date, who you let in your inner circle. So so while the narrator, what they're saying is 100% truth, it's all about interpretation. I just didn't like.
A few days after meeting Elvis, Ginger found herself in a San Francisco hotel room, facing something she couldn't quite take in. One of Elvis's aides walked in and placed a small packet in his hand. Without stopping to think, Elvis swallowed the contents and told her it would help him drift off to sleep. The next morning, another packet showed up.
Now, this information, again, where is this information coming from? Because so he started talking about Linda, now he's talking about Ginger. Is this information from Ginger, or is it from other places? This is what I want to know.
Elvis explained it away as nothing more than vitamins, sinus pills, aspirin mixed together. To Ginger, the way it was done felt strange. No one in Graceland seemed to think much of it. But inside, Ginger felt something wasn't right. With time, she started to notice more. One night, she stood nearby while an aide helped Elvis shuffle to the bathroom, and then...
Now, I gotta say, is the narrator talking about Ginger? Did they move on from Linda and they started talking about Ginger? Or are they saying Linda, but they mean Ginger? Comment below. Let me know, guys.
Led him back to bed. She looked on, unable to shake the thought that the yellow packets held more than what Elvis had described. She couldn't name what was inside, but the effect on him looked far too strong to ignore. Her worry grew when she watched him during a show that December. On stage, he stumbled over parts of his own lyrics. That took her by surprise. She started to think that the pills, or maybe some kind of pain relief he was taking, might be affecting his memory. What troubled her even more was how these sleep packets followed him everywhere. Whether he was at home, on the road, or even before a performance, they never left his side. At first, Ginger told herself not to step in, but as weeks rolled by, she could no longer pretend. His moods shifted from lighthearted laughter to sharp anger or sudden distance. She began to believe that the substances he leaned on day after day were behind these swings. One day, when Elvis asked for more medication, Ginger finally spoke up. She told him he didn't need it. Elvis shook his head and brushed her off. He tried to make her believe he couldn't do without it, that he needed it just to keep going. Hearing that, Ginger didn't push further. Still, she thought deeply about it. Maybe Elvis had been taking these pills so often that his body no longer reacted the same way. Maybe that was why he needed stronger doses. She could only hope that the medical team around him was able to manage it. After they had been together for 6 months, her concern...
So that's interesting. That's the first time that I feel like I've heard that, the medical team around him. So again, guys, I know a lot of people have a lot of different things, to say. A lot of people say that Elvis was a drug addict, and people say, no, he wasn't. However it may be, me looking at it as an objective observer, and also subjective observer right now, is just that knowing that the way the medications were given back in the days and the way that they are given now, regulation is completely different. And however it is, Elvis wasn't one. He's not like he's going on the street picking up drugs, but it doesn't matter whether if it's on the street or whatever. If doctors are giving you medications are supposed to do certain things. If you are taking them constantly, your body will become addicted to it. It just is. And we know that Elvis had a lot of health issues, and we don't know if health issues came from medication. Or I should say, I don't know. You guys may know. I don't know. And this is the whole thing that I'm learning right now. And again, as I'm listening to this narrator moved on from Linda to Ginger. And I don't know if they mean Linda throughout or whatever it is. But if it is part of his life, even if it is Ginger, the next person that comes on, he has a medical team there, and the medical team is pushing it on him. And that's just the reality of what it is. Same thing as we say that, with Michael Jackson, the way he died, his doctor overdosed him. Again, all of these people, this is their medical team. They're not going in the street and buying drugs off the street and doing that to them. They have a whole team of people that are there watching them and that are there pushing it on them. So take it as you want to, but this is what I'm hearing right now, and that's just that. All right, again, comment below, because I'm always looking into the comments and always correcting myself if I am wrong about anything. But all in all, this video, I feel like I should probably be saying that at the end. I feel like so far it's a good video, but they should not have that picture in front. And so I guess I'll say it right now. When I do put the video up, I am definitely going to put a different image, because I feel like that picture was clickbait, and also it's not really describing what I'm hearing so far. All right, let's go.
Only grew. Another tour was coming up, and Elvis, as usual, felt worried. When he couldn't fall asleep, he reached out again for the small packets. Ginger began to see a clearer pattern. It wasn't only about sleepless nights. It was about something that could change him in ways he might not even notice. She could see how the substances influenced every part of him. His reactions, his energy, even the way he moved through life. It all seemed different. She tried to bring up her worries in soft, gentle ways, but nothing shifted. No matter what she said, it felt like she didn't have the power to break through. Then the day that struck her hard finally arrived. That fateful day, she got a phone call and rushed to Graceland. When she stepped into Elvis's room, she froze. He lay stretched out on the bed with his eyes shut, an IV hooked into his arm. She was told that Elvis had just come back from Las Vegas after taking too much medication. For Ginger, the sight was crushing. Watching him in that fragile state tore something inside her.
Again, they're saying Ginger and they're showing Linda's picture. So guys, comment below. I don't know if they're just off on the names and what Linda actually has on her memoir. Now it makes me want to read it. Comment below if you guys read it.
Yet she still didn't know how to stop the cycle. Months later, on the morning of August 16, 1977, the weight of it all fell on her in a way she would never forget. Elvis had trouble resting and called for his first packet just before 7 in the morning. Ricky Stanley brought it up. An hour later, Elvis was still not settled, so he called for another. Ricky came again, handing him a second packet. Ginger stirred as Elvis rose from the bed. He picked up a book, saying he wanted to read in the bathroom. She rolled back over and drifted into sleep once more. Hours later, she opened her eyes, the sun already high in the afternoon sky. That turned out to be the last time she had seen him alive. The memory of those final months stayed with Ginger Alden, not just as a companion, but as someone who had watched him drift further from himself, day by day. After Linda Thompson walked away from her life with Elvis Presley, the world outside felt both lighter and lonelier. For years, her days and nights had revolved around him. Every sound, every step, every plan had been tied to his routine. When she left, all that stopped. At first, the silence troubled her. She would wake in the night expecting to hear footsteps, laughter, or a voice calling her name. Instead, there was nothing but her own breath in the dark. Freedom gave her space to breathe again, but it also forced her to face memories she had kept locked inside. Linda had carried secrets that belonged to Elvis, things no one else knew in full. Even after leaving, she felt tied to them. She told herself that keeping them hidden was still an act of love, even if their romance was over. That loyalty never left her. The years moved forward, but Linda found that Elvis remained with her in countless ways. She heard his music everywhere, on the radio, in restaurants, even drifting from cars passing on the street. Each song pulled her back to moments they had shared, both joyful and heavy. Sometimes the memories brought a smile. Other times they carried a sharp ache. When Elvis passed away in 1977, the news shattered her. Even though they had parted, she had always hoped he might find balance, that he might overcome the struggles that had weighed him down. His untimely demise felt like a door closing forever on a part of her life that no one else could truly understand. She grieved not only for him as a man, but also for the years they had shared in secrecy. After his passing, people often turned to Linda, hoping she would reveal details about what life with Elvis had been like. Friends, reporters, and fans all carried questions. Some wanted gossip, others wanted truth. Linda, however, remained careful. She chose her words with caution. She wanted to honor his memory, not expose his pain. The darkest parts of his life, the very things he had asked her to keep hidden, stayed locked inside her for many years. In private, Linda often reflected on what their time together had taught her. She realized that love can be both a two-edged sword. With Elvis, she had learned devotion, patience, and sacrifice. But she had also learned the cost of carrying too much for another person. Her own voice, her own needs had often been buried under the weight of his struggles. After leaving, she promised herself that she would never lose her own life so completely inside someone else's again. She began to rebuild. Linda stepped into her own career, worked on her own creative projects, and built relationships that allowed her to stand as her own person. Yet Elvis's shadow was never far away. She knew that no matter what she did, people would always ask about him. For many, she would forever be linked to the king of rock and roll. As the years passed, Linda grew more open in sharing her story. She wrote about her experiences, gave interviews, and spoke with honesty about the man she had loved. But even then, she was careful. She revealed enough to paint a picture of her life with him. But she also protected the most painful truths. The darkest secret, the one he had made her keep, remained guarded inside her heart for decades. Her reflection on those years carried both pride and sorrow. She was proud that she had stood by him during a time when he needed someone to trust. She was proud that she had been strong enough to leave when her own life depended on it. But she also carried sorrow for the man behind the fame, the one who struggled with battles few people could see. Linda often said that Elvis was not just an icon, he was human, flawed, vulnerable, and in need of care. That human side, hidden from the world, was the side she had loved. Looking back, she realized that keeping those secrets had shaped her. They had taught her about loyalty, about strength, and about the heavy price of silence. She sometimes wondered what might have happened if Elvis had shared more openly, if he had allowed others to carry the weight with him. But those questions had no answers. What remained was her story, one of love, sacrifice, and reflection. She had loved a man who belonged to the world, yet in private, he was fragile and dependent on her. She had walked away, rebuilt her life, and still carried pieces of him within her. Even decades later, when she spoke about Elvis, her voice often softened. The memories had not faded. The music, the laughter, the pain, all of it stayed close. Time moved forward, but the past was never far behind. For Linda, reflection was not about regret. It was about understanding that her life had been forever marked by the years she spent with him and by the secret he had asked her to keep. Linda had lived through years that most people could only imagine. She was proud of her loyalty and strength, yet sorrowful for the man she could not save. His memory remained alive in music, in stories, and in her heart. The secret stayed with her, shaping her reflections and her sense of self. Time gave her perspective, but never erased the past. For Linda, the aftermath was not just about looking back. It was about living with the weight of love forever. What are your thoughts on Linda Thompson's loyalty to Elvis? Do you think it was worth the suffering? Let us know your views in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.
All right, so as I stated, this video, I think that the thumbnail is what completely threw me off. That the thumbnail, which I will not put as my thumbnail, and it says, like, you know, that he was gay in order to get you to this video. But for a true Elvis fan, if they gave a different thumbnail, one that was true to this video, I think that this video probably would have a lot of more views. I actually enjoyed it. I'd like to hear this other perspective. I don't know if the narrative information came from Linda's book, but it sounds like it's something that would come from her book. I feel like, to answer his question, this is what I feel like real relationship is. I feel like if you are going to get into a relationship with anyone, you know, especially someone who's a celebrity, there are certain parts of their lives that you get to know, and it's like, you become within that inner circle, right? Like it's your job to keep it private. It is your job to keep it private. You don't wait on yourself, but it is your job to keep it private with that team. You have a whole team of support there, and it's your job. It is not for the public to know every single thing. Like Elvis was there during that time, at that time, and you know, he was performing for his fan loved him. He was, you know, they say that he's the same person on stage and off stage, and that's perfectly fine. But he was a professional, right? And as a professional, you go and you're singing and you're professional. But when it's okay to be at home and to be vulnerable, when you, especially when you're in your bedroom, you're with your love in your life, that's when you talk, you get to be vulnerable. They get to see your whole you. And it sounds like from her, what I heard, you know, that he was able to do that, and he was able to have her as a safe space. And with all the pressure that was on him, with the medication that he was given by his doctor, again, and it doesn't matter who you are, enough time with certain medication, you do become addicted to those medications. So I guess his question is, with that, I feel like with her, she was with him for the time that she was meant to be with him. And when things got too tough for her, she realized that, you know what, I love him, but I love myself, and I'm going to choose myself, and I'm going to get out of the relationship. And I think that is perfectly fine. And he loved her enough to say that, you know what, this is not the right relationship for her, so I'm also going to let her go. And I feel like things could not be better for both of them in terms of how it goes. And that's just that. So I guess at the end, thank you very much, anonymous sponsor, for recommending this video, because I'm glad that I did see it, and I actually want to read her memoir myself to see what part of it is true and what part of it was is interpretation. So with that, I definitely had a lot of questions for you guys. Definitely let me know in the comments, and I wonder if I didn't see that cover, if I would have came at this video a little different. But all in all, I personally did enjoy it, and it does make me want to read it. And if you have read her memoir and you do know more about her, comment below and let me know how accurate you think that this narrator was to her story. But in the meantime, for me, I'm going to put a different cover, and I don't know if I'm going to keep the same title or change the title, but I guess we will see. All right, I'm going to see you guys in the next reaction. And guys, thank you again for being with me on the Weeks of Elvis, where I continue to go deep dive and learn more about him. All right, bye.